Hey Doc, hey Lou, audit them. Merry Christmas, guys. Buzz, what's going on? John Eagle, hi, hey, hey. I figured I'd kick it with you guys after the family stuff was done today. David, what's up, bud? We could talk about the Social Security case just went down. Jay, how you doing? Oh yeah, my boy Dan's in the house. Winston, Merry Christmas. Kevin, hello everyone. Anybody's welcome to come up on the panel tonight. I will talk a little bit about the Social Security case, not a whole bunch, because we will be appealing the decision. So anybody's welcome to come on up. Hey, Dan B. Hillsboro Highlights, what's up? We're going to wait for a couple minutes. Make sure everybody gets the notification. Callista, how are you, ma'am? Merry Christmas to you. Samantha, Merry Christmas. Good to see everybody. Give it a couple minutes so we don't have to repeat ourselves. Again, anybody's welcome up on the panel. Doesn't matter, friend, foe, who you know, don't matter. Pop on up. You can say you love me, you can say you hate me, whatever comes to mind. It's the spirit of giving. Hey, J-Dub. Yeah, dude, definitely get your grub on, man. Be eating late, though, boss. It's a love-hate thing, right, Luke? And some just love-hate me. All right, so I got the link in the description there, or excuse me, in the chat. Again, feel free to pop on up if you feel like it. Invictus, Merry Christmas to you, buddy. Good to see you, man. It's been a long time, man. We've been at this a long time. Invictus is one of my older subs. He's been with me for a long time. Thanks, Mark. Merry Christmas to you, sir. And T, Merry Christmas to you too. All right, so a couple minutes in. Hey, Wisconsin, what's up? I got a family there in Waukesha. Excalibur 12, good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. I got to hang out with Excalibur 12 at the Audit Palooza. We got to go out and do a couple audits together. Cool guy. Bitchin' Yule. Russian Plant. Is that Robert Plant, but his Russian cousin? Uh, well, enough of the howdy do and hoo la. I'm sure most of you already know. If you haven't heard already, you know the trolls like to amplify that stuff loud. We were convicted on Friday, me and Foshin. This is a public service. We were convicted of 102-74.385 and 74.420. The official signs and the photography in an authorized area. Now, how we got convicted, I'm still not sure. I read through the judge's order, and I'm more confused now than when we started the trial. Really, Token White, I don't see you. Plus, my internet's kind of spotty sometimes. I don't know if I'm cutting in and out. Yeah, I can imagine Waukesha is a bootlicker stronghold. Am I coming through loud and clear? Is everybody hearing me? Just trying to make sure I can. Token Mike, you there, bud? I'll add you to the stage. I'm not down for no porn bombing, though. That is ridiculous, Callista. Um, and anybody that wants the judge's order, you can email me and I'll get it to you. Sometimes my internet's not working as well as it should be, guys, so. I don't even know if you guys can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes. 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 Can definitely hear you. Now you can see me. I can see me.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. You're loud and clear.
Okay, great. Yeah, sometimes my internet gets spotty, so I'm not really sure
No,
if I'm
you're not
coming through.
dropping. Yeah, you're not dropping out at all.
Okay, great. Great. Yeah, it kind of comes and goes. You pay all this money to Elon Musk for this damn Starlink, and then shit comes and goes. Like, I don't know, the COVID. Here one day, gone the next. I'm like, what the hell? You know?
Uh,
Good to see
that's
you, buddy. Merry Christmas to you, by the way.
Hey, Merry Christmas to you too, man. I'm shocked that you got convicted. I don't get it.
I was talking to somebody the other day, and I equated it to you pulling up to a parking lot, right? And there's a parking space in front of you, and you go to park, and there's two signs in that parking space, right? At the beginning of the parking space, there's two signs, and one says parking allowed, and then the
Right.
other sign says no parking allowed. And they're trying to say that this is clear, that a citizen would know that he's not allowed to record here because of the sign supposedly. And again, I don't want to get into too much for our defense and for our appeal, but when you read the judge's order, it really leaves you more questions than it answers, because he states that we recorded the sign, and we should have known that we couldn't record since we recorded the sign, and that we didn't ask permission to record. But he never said if we were in a lobby, or if we were in a lobby that we still needed permission to record. Like, he didn't clarify really anything. And unfortunately, I missed my chance to get him to clarify some stuff. I should have been a little bit quicker on the draw, but we are, moving to appeal it. And, these are hopefully some of the questions that are going to be answered when we appeal it, because, we had a lot of evidence
Now you dropped out. You right after you said we had a lot of evidence, the audio stopped.
And again, I
There you go.
love
You
that
came back for
mofo.
a
He's riding around in a $30 million yacht. He's giving me shoddy internet.
Oh man.
You know what I mean? Like just robbing the man, just robbing us. But
He's
yeah, we had a lot of evidence to show. Am I dropping in and out again?
yes. Yes, you are.
All right, let me see.
Now you
All
sound
right, I'm
fine.
gonna try to hook up on another device here and see if it's. Yeah, that's the thing. It comes and goes, so I don't know. Um,
Hmm.
Let me see. I'm gonna get on another device.
Hold on. Turn that volume down. It's doing
Yeah, can you hear me better now?
You're coming in loud and clear now.
All right. Yeah, I don't understand how they convicted us, but again, part of the reason what we do is to show people that even when the law says you're allowed to do something, I mean, it's clear as day right on their poster that we're allowed to do this. So when the law says that we're allowed to do this and we go and we do this, that if they want us convicted, they'll convict us. And that's all there is to it, and they'll twist the law and they'll find a way to make it seem like it's okay and that we're in the wrong and they're in the right. But I mean, at the end of the day, the bottom line is that we're a threat to them because we're watching them and we're asking questions, and they try to, I guess you say, get us out of the way, or try to get us to reconsider our options. But I was already on probation, so this isn't a detriment to me. Um, I'll have another probation officer that I'll go and say hi to once a month or whatever, and that'll be that. But once I'm off probation, I'll be looking to you know still keep them accountable. But I think, like I've been telling people, I'm done taking the rests. I'm done trying to push the limit. I'm just going in, getting a violation on camera, and then I'm leaving, and then I'll just sue. Because I'm wasting all this time in these buildings talking to these idiots when I don't have to. I'll just go and I'll sue and let the courts figure it out. Just like the cops say, oh, well, let the courts figure it out. Well, I try to be nice for years and years, right? I've been going in these buildings years and years. I've been pleading with them, you know what I mean? I'm like, please don't violate my rights, you know what I mean? Please uphold your oath, and please, smarten up. And they just, they want to be stubborn. So, I guess let them be stubborn, and try to go about it the smarter way, like Samantha Smith says, work smarter, not harder. And that's exactly what they're getting us to do, is they're getting us to work harder, right? Because a lot of people will imagine that because if you get arrested, the lawsuit's going to be, oh, you're going to get 20 times more money. That's not always the case, right? So
Right.
don't base getting arrested on the fact that you're going to get a whole bunch of money, because a lot of times that don't pan out. you know so um just be smarter about it. Catch the violation on camera and move on, go to the next spot, because What's really going to help them change is the subscribers, uh, you know, talking with the representatives and talking with these people in a calm and collective manner, right? Not threatening or acting a fool, as we see Henry got convicted of, pretty much along those lines of people calling in to quote unquote support him and you know threatening them or whatever, which again could be happening or could not be happening. We're kind of got to take them at their word for it, right? I don't think they entered any evidence in this case of any actual audio recordings of this going on, and then again, it could be the trolls that are calling into these places, threatening these people as a way to get us, persecuted by these people. You know what I mean? Like that could be a common troll tactic. Um, so yeah, we just
Right.
gotta, I think, be careful and and like Samantha said, work smarter and not harder.
So, what do you think about this new law that's going into place January 1st in Florida that you have to be 25 feet?
You know, my thing on that is that that's going to regulate cop watching more than auditing. Because usually in auditing, the cops are going to be coming up to you. You're not going to be coming up to them. Whereas in cop watching, it's going to be the reverse. You're going to be coming up to the cops. So I think that's going to, be more detrimental to a lot of the guys that are doing the cop watching more so. Like I hardly ever cop watch. And usually when I do it, it's usually when I'm out of town, like out of state, during a trip. Otherwise I'm at home at night with the wife and kids. So, but as far as the law goes, I do believe that sooner or later someone's going to challenge it. Um, Angry Vets in the chat said that they're going to be challenging it. And I know that the ACLU is up there in Indiana challenging that 25-foot rule. I know the Louisiana 25-foot rule, I think, has already been challenged because Louisiana had just passed a similar law, and I think that's being challenged.
It's been shot down. I forget what state it was, but they did it, and they've already the federal um, the Supreme Court already shot it down in another state. So why they went through with passing it in Florida, it makes no sense. Other than, and here's where my concern is: you're speaking about when you're doing an audit and they come up to you. Now they're doing an investigation. So now, under that law, and you know how they like to twist things into their favor, will they use that law now to tell you to turn your camera off while you're doing an audit? Because now they're engaging with you. Now they're actively, investigating. Do
No,
you
I
do you
don't think
do you see that as
no,
being an issue?
no, because I'm pretty sure that an exemption to that 25-foot law is when it's a personal interaction.
Okay.
I can't imagine them coming up to you, like let's say you're the traffic stop, right? Let's say they pulled you over and you're recording them from inside of the car. I don't believe they could say, well, you have to be, 25 feet away from me, but since you can't, you're, the victim, in this robbery, you have to shut your camera off, because you can't be 25 feet away. So I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. And if it
Okay.
is, I think that's just going to be, money for whoever that happens to. I don't think that's going to be an issue for a lawyer to take to court and win. Um, so yeah, I don't foresee that. More likely, what I see is them using it against people like Chuck Bronson when he shows up on scene. You know what I mean? And
Right.
some other people have already talked about it. How another officer will show up on scene, and then he's like, "Hey, you got to be 25 feet away from me," and I don't think Chuck's going to let that slide. And as well he shouldn't. Um, I don't know, if he'll push it to an arrest, but the fact of the matter is it's 25 feet away from the scene, I believe. Um, so you can't just have cops keep showing up and pushing you back and pushing you back and pushing you back.
Well, it's I
Someone
don't.
asked to join the panel. I put the link in the chat. Anybody wants to join the panel? I believe it was a gentleman named Mule, but my internet spotty goes in and out, so I'm not sure if I'm coming through here or not. What's up, Livingston Audits? Yeah, my wife wanted to let you know that her maiden name is Livingston. Livingston Audits. Can you hear me okay, Token White? Am I coming through okay, or am I
Yeah, no
roboting?
drop. Yes, no drops at all at this point. Since you did whatever it was you did on your end, you've been coming in perfectly.
All right. Yeah, there's Famously Unfamous. He's from the northern part of Indiana.
Oh, here's
How you
Mule.
how you doing, Mule? I
Hey,
don't know if
boss. How you doing?
good, sir. Good. Merry Christmas to you.
And to you too, sir. Nice to be out and about.
It is.
uh,
It is. I'm glad. I told my lawyer before the case. I told him, I said, I don't really care what the outcome of the case is, as long as I'm free over the holidays to spend it with my family. I said, we'll fight it in an appeal if it doesn't go our way, which it didn't. But this is what we're finding with the justice system. It's hard to get them to follow the law even at that level. So there's always an excuse. There's always a reason why they can violate us. So that is what it is.
hey, boss. I got a old quote from Richard Gere. If you want justice, go to a whorehouse. If you want to get screwed, go to a courthouse. If you want justice, go to a cat house. Excuse me. If you want justice, go to a cat house. If you want to get screwed, go to a courthouse.
That sounds pretty accurate. that sounds pretty accurate indeed. Um, so I mean, we'll keep going along. Callista asked, how long will it take to appeal? Usually, appeal's going to take like a year to a year and a half, somewhere in that range. Sometimes it can get done quicker, but you got to remember there's probably still a backlog of cases from the pandemic. So, and I know from DMA's case, his appeal took like a year and a half to be heard. So we're looking around the same timeline, I'm thinking. So, yeah, that's what we're looking at now. We're already on probation, so with only 6 months of probation, the probation will be over long before the appeals are heard. So the only recourse after that will be to go back and the sue. So we'll see how that goes.
That's
T,
like
there are no
that.
victims.
No victim. Yeah, that's why the United States court system should be treated like Las Vegas, because the house always has to win.
Absolutely. It's presumed right off the bat that the government agent is going to be telling the truth and that the citizen would be lying. Like that's their default position. So when you go into court, you're already behind the gun if you're facing against the government. Now, if it's like small claims court and it's you against another citizen, 50-50, no problem. But if you're going in against any kind of government agent, the court already presumes the government agent to be telling the truth, right? That's just the way the system works, right? Because the government's got to trust the government, right? Otherwise, it falls apart. So
True.
automatically,
Very true.
yeah, automatically, when you go into court, the government's going to side with the government unless you can compel them otherwise, you know? And again, that's in a that's in a non-biased court. That's not if you're in a court where the public servant plays golf with the judge on the weekends. You know what I mean? So it
Mm.
just like who do we imagine that these public servants hang out with? Who are their buddies? You know what I mean? Like I don't see any of them at the bars I hang out at. I don't see them at the parks I go to. You know what I mean? Like who do they hang out with? They hang out with these other public servants. And they insulate themselves, from the outside world. Um, so they come trotting out when it's election time. If they're an elected official, they smile and wave. They kiss a couple babies. They tell you what you want to hear, and then you don't see them for the next 4 years. You got to make an appointment, and then you'll be lucky if you get to see them. If you live in a small town, chances are good, but if you live anywhere where there's 20,000 or more people, chances of you getting to see the mayor you elected is slim to none. So that's the kind of representation you get. Yeah, Lion One says they play pickleball at country clubs. That's exactly right. Reminds me of Caddyshack. You know what I mean? With Rodney Dangerfield and the judge.
Mm.
Yep. So yeah, so that's about it on the Social Security case. I mean, like I said, I didn't want to go into too much detail about it, but we definitely are appealing it.
What
We've done
about the oh, I'm sorry. What about the
no go.
Dothan, Alabama case? The one
Well,
you
there were
just
two.
lost in the 11th Circuit?
Yep, there
Are
were
you
two
guys going to
Dothan.
push it?
No, we're not, and I'll tell you why. There was two cases in Dothan. The other one I already posted about. It's in my community tab for those of you that want to check it out. I can't really say much about it, but this latest one I lost in the 11th Circuit. The 11th Circuit overruled the district court and allowed the officers qualified immunity. And the reason they did was they said that the officers could have reasonably suspected me of trespassing because they had called the police. Now, there are some issues with this, but when you're at the 11th Circuit already, there's only a couple of options left, right? You can ask for a rehearing from the panel, which they're probably not going to rule differently than what they ruled originally. You can ask for it en banc, which is like all of the judges of the 11th Circuit hearing the case, which they very rarely do, or you can appeal it to the Supreme Court. And as everyone knows, the Supreme Court picks and chooses which cases they want to hear. Now, there was no First Amendment issue in this case, which is actually my mistake. There should have been. And we should have pushed harder. The lawyers should have pushed a little bit harder on the whole asking me to leave concept. But because I think there was no First Amendment claim in the lawsuit, I think that's where I missed out on. Now, again, we got to remember that this is something that I'm learning as I'm going, right? And this lawsuit was filed almost 4 years ago, at least 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. Um, so I'm learning as I go. So this is all a learning experience for me. Um, I've got more lawsuits that are filed and working their way through the system already in South Carolina. I got two out there, and I'll be filing some more in Florida coming up for some of the policies and ordinances they've been passing. We'll be filing on those here, hopefully within the next 6 months. But yeah, everything's a learning experience for me. I don't expect to win all these lawsuits. Um, I'm happy every once in a while if they settle or whatever. Um, we're definitely trying to get some case law up there, but again, these guys have so many tricks up their sleeve that it's hard to get stuff through. I mean, you gotta really have all your T's dotted and I's crossed, and hope there's no incidents in the area where you fit the description, because then all of a sudden now they've got RAS, and so it's difficult. It's a lot more difficult than people make it out to be, or have ever made it out to be. Um,
Oh, I have no doubt. I have no doubt. I'm
yeah,
just, I'm kind of disappointed in the 11th Circuit that they decided to pull that one. You know,
right. I mean, but and see, my lawyer should have made the observation to the judges that even though the security guard had asked me to leave, it wasn't a lawful order to leave, because obviously I've listened to that interaction over and over and over and over again, but she asked us to leave because we were recording. So it was not a lawful order to leave, right? Again, it'd be the same if she asked me to leave because if I was Hispanic, or if I was, too short, or whatever the reason may be to discriminate against a person who's engaged in lawful activity. But she asked me to leave because I was, chewing gum or whatever. You know what I mean? Something obviously that they can't regulate. So that issue should have been brought up more, but um, I should have included a First Amendment retaliation claim to base it all on, and I didn't. I only included two Fourth Amendment claims. Um, but again, this is something that I'm learning, and to be honest, I'm honored to have it go as far as it did. Right? Because
Hmm.
I haven't been to law school. Right? I haven't paid $100,000 to go through law school. I'm just picking this stuff up off books and talking with some of my buddies that are lawyers and reading cases and stuff like that. So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm happy with the outcome that I got. And like I said, to me, their best bet has always been to just settle as soon as I file, because eventually they're going to keep fighting and they're going to keep fighting, and I'm going to learn the game, right? I'm going to learn their system, and I'm just going to go in there and I'm just going to continually start smacking them with suits, So they call it on the job training, I guess. It's an apprenticeship. Like I'm learning the old school way. Just throw me in the ring, coach.
That's how Abraham Lincoln did it.
Yeah. So
definitely, definitely.
And so
So
it can be done. And there's other people that have done. I mean, look, Kim Kardashian became an attorney. I mean,
holy cow, yeah, anybody now could basically do it. And Paris Hilton's now a DJ, like a supposedly like a world renowned DJ. I was like, holy cow, like
oh,
I,
she's actually, believe it or not, she's actually pretty good.
really.
Yeah, and
hey,
she's been at it for at least 10 years.
yeah,
But
and just
she
think about it. One of these days, we might even be able to teach Amber Heard how to make a bed.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that's not gonna
but,
happen.
but she did something for Christmas that just I just turned it. I don't know why she did it. She put out a little video. She's completely naked except for a red bow, and she's doing a little dance in front of a Christmas tree.
Who is?
Paris Hilton.
Oh, geez.
I just saw the clip, and I'm like,
Maybe
why would you? You're married, you got a kid now, you're an adult. Why would you do that?
trying to stay relevant. Trying to
I
stay
get.
relevant. It's not enough to have more money than you ever need, right? Like You gotta be relevant. You gotta,
Yeah,
make people think you're something that, who cares,
I
really?
guess, man.
You
But
know,
yeah,
there's people that care out there, man. There's people that actually care. They're like, oh my God, Paris. Wasn't there? Oh no, that guy was talking
oh,
about Brittany. The guy that was crying, leave Brittany alone.
oh,
Yeah,
I don't know what to think about Brittany, man. She's I don't know about that one, but getting back to what you do, are you so? Is this gonna like being in the situation that you're in currently for a little bit of time? Is that gonna do you, is that gonna like hinder you from doing what you do?
I mean, I've basically been on a hiatus since I was convicted in Georgia last year because, the problem that I'm having is that when I'm on probation and I'm out there on the street, the officers know, and they know that they can arrest me and I won't have to even, go to court and get the charges dismissed. As soon as I'm arrested, that violates my probation.
Ah,
And once you violate that probation, they can realistically put you right to jail, a year, whatever's left on your sentence. So
gotcha.
as much as I'd love to be out there doing what I do, um, the fact is I got a family to take care of, and I can't just leave them in
Right.
limbo while I'm languishing in jail. Um,
Of course not.
so it's been a struggle. I still try to get out there here and there. Me and my buddy Wrights Crispy, we do some Crispy Nation stuff, but um, again, and even when my probation's over, I'm definitely going to be back out, but I'm going to be a lot more reserved because again, all this going to jail and fighting these charges and getting on probation and just doing that kind of stuff, it's really not worth it. I mean, I've mastered the art of getting them to violate my rights in the first place. So I'll go in, I'll get it on camera. It'll be nice, easy, lemon squeezy, and it'll look better in the courtroom. If I'm not standing there arguing with these people, it'll look better in the courtroom if they cannot say, hey, we asked him to leave 9 times and he didn't leave, So,
Right.
yeah.
Well,
Well,
you know what though? You know what you did though? You know what you did though? You ignited a fire. And me personally, I'm speaking for me personally. You lit a fire in me. And just by watching your content, it gave me the courage to go out there and stand and I learned about standing up for my rights from watching what you did. So, maybe use this. Maybe just a suggestion. I mean, maybe you're already doing it or even thinking about it. But you have this wealth of knowledge that that you've shared. I think unknowingly that you've shared, and maybe now time to put it in more of a digestible format.
right,
Like a
right,
book.
absolutely.
Well,
I,
like just like training videos, like like going back through your old content and going, okay, here's why I did this, and this is when I did that, kind of thing. Like actually, teaching what you did and why you did when you did it, through the videos. I don't know if that makes any sense.
right, no, it does. It makes perfect sense. Absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely some videos like that I would like to do. I would like to discuss more topics. And I'm actually in the process, believe it or not, writing books for kids 7 to 12 years old about history. And it's going to be called actually Majorly Awesome's Unredacted History. And it's going to be the stuff that they leave out of the public education system. It's going to be more focused on some of the stuff like that, where they're leaving a lot of that out now. Why they did what they did back then. What were the conditions? What were they thinking? Different stuff like that. But it's all going to be factual. So yeah, definitely. I think that's the point where we need to start the education process of learning our rights and understanding our relationship to the government. Like, what are their obligations to us and what are our obligations as a citizen of the society, right? So
Absolutely. That sounds like a great idea. And I know that there's, the lawyers and judges got to come from, come from kids. I mean, there's a kid out there right now, a 12, 13-year-old kid right now thinking, I want to be an attorney when I grow up, or I want to be a judge, or I want to be a senator or a governor. I mean, that's where the seeds start.
exactly. Exactly.
And so I think that's a great idea.
John Denicola asked about the dumbest deputy chief case, and
Yeah.
I'm still waiting. Yeah, that guy, he was a real hoot, that guy. But and I was telling this again. I'll illustrate. But so in South Carolina, they only have the one district court, right? So in Florida, you got the Northern District Court, the Middle District Court, and the Southern District Court. What in South Carolina, you just have the South Carolina District Court, and so I have two cases there, and both cases went through the same magistrate judge. And both times, this guy tried to do whatever he could to not let these cases go through. Right? I mean, he made me amend the complaint. He recommended it. The first case be dismissed, which was the Easley case, which the judge, said that it should go ahead, and uh, the city motioned to dismiss it, and the magistrate judge came back finally and said, no, we're going to let it go ahead, as his recommendation to the district judge. So we're waiting to hear back from the judge in that case. But in my other case, Mike Smith, who's the dumbest deputy chief ever, that case in South Carolina, he recommended again that it, be dismissed, or whatever, and I objected to that, and then we're waiting to hear back now from the judge if that case can go ahead, and we're talking. I think I objected. It's been almost a year now, probably, since I objected to that case. So these things don't move, quickly. Those Dothan cases easily encompass 3 to 4 years of my life.
Hmm.
So when people are like, "Oh, I'm going to audit," I mean, if you want to hold them really accountable, realize that it's not just the 20 minutes that you see on YouTube that you're going to be involved in this incident. This incident could take years of your life to figure out and go through, and get redemption, if you will, or whatever. you know so I know a lot of people that say, "Oh, video, I'll watch it 20 minutes. Oh, cool. I could do that." Well, just realize sometimes when you see that video, it's years of someone's life that's being put into it. I've done updates there. I've done revisits to Dothan, and like I said before, even before I filed lawsuits in Dothan, they had already trained their officers on the First Amendment. I know a lot of people think that the only way to get change is to sue, and that's just not the truth. There's other ways. My revisits have had a high success rate of getting people in line, um, and just public participation has put pressure on these people to get in line. I think just recently there was a chief of police in Hazard, Kentucky, that was fired
Mm.
because of public pressure, because of YouTube videos. I shared the guy's video. A lot of other channels shared his video as well, but because of all the public eyes on the video, there was a public outcry, and the chief ended up getting fired. So we are definitely out there doing some stuff. But like I always said, my biggest change comes from the people that watch, and they, see what I'm talking about, and they look it up themselves, and they start incorporating that into their lives. Like, I can't tell you how many people tell me that when a cop gets behind them when they're driving, they get nervous, right? And these guys aren't crack dealers or human traffickers or anything. These are normal, hardworking people that are just out there working, and doing whatever, and they still get nervous when a cop pulls behind them. So um, it's
Well, that's
go
because
ahead.
they can make up anything they want. I mean, I'm convinced that as soon as you get behind the wheel of an automobile, you are in a potential violation.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, if they follow behind you long enough, they'll come up with something to pull you over in.
So you
Like
cross the
that's
line, you're waving in the lane. Like there's so many little things that they can have a reason to pull you over for. But I tell you, I saw a video recently about a DUI checkpoint. Have you seen that one?
was it the Jeff Gray one, or I
Yes.
think,
Yes.
yeah,
And he puts
yeah, I
his
saw that.
registration and his driver's license and everything in a plastic bag
Yeah, yeah,
and hangs
perfect.
it up. And it worked.
Right, right, because that's supposedly that's all they care about, right? They don't want to stick their head in the window and sniff all around, right? That's they say they don't want to do that. They just want to, check your license or whatever. So, I mean, even if you haven't been drinking, why would you allow them to stick their head in there? Because again, all they have to do is say that they smell it. They don't have to smell it. They could just say they smell it, and you're already in trouble. Again,
And
it's
that's
the
what,
same concept of not speaking to an officer. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
why give them an inch? Make them work for that shit.
Can't give them an inch. Look what happened in Tennessee. Now they're saying in Tennessee they got all these people that were arrested for DUI that were 100% sober. No
Right.
question, they were 100% sober.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
and now
And
there's an finally there's an investigation now into why there's been so many DUI arrests of people that were completely sober and there was no reason for them to be arrested at all.
of
And
course not.
and that's
Yeah.
and that yeah. So, but
Yeah.
this
No.
is
They.
all. But you know what? This is all thanks to people like you, Rogue. I mean, I've been following you for I don't know 4 or 5 years now, at least. I mean, I'm back in Florida, and I've been back in Florida since 2021, the beginning January of 2021. And I know that I contacted you when I was living in Mobile, Alabama. You'd come up there to do some work, and man, they jumped all over you up there.
Yeah, Mobile, Alabama really has probably been one of the worst states I've ever been in. Those guys, and Mississippi's pretty bad too. I didn't get to spend a lot of time in Mississippi before my conviction went down last year. I just started getting into Mississippi. I'd done probably, I think, 2 to 3 visits there. I had
Right.
Jackson and Gulfport and some places like that. But I really like to get into a state and really go all around and get to know it and stuff like that. But the issue is in the South, and why a lot of auditors don't come down here to vacation and audit, and when they do, they leave real quick, is because the education level in the South is a lot lower than in the rest of the country. These are some of the poorest states in the country: Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and so with a poor state comes up less money in even the poor public uh, education system. You know what I mean? It's already bad enough as it is. Uh, but now you're talking about a public education system where it's almost impossible to learn because it's in the deep South, and maybe these schools don't even have air conditioning, or the air conditioning is broken, it's sweltering, and the kids can't learn. So I mean, there's all kinds of issues. I years and years ago, I used to install burglar alarms, and I worked for a company up in Gary, Indiana.
Hmm.
And we installed all the burglar alarms and the cameras in the Gary public school system up there. And I'm kidding you not. I wouldn't let my dog go to school in those schools up there. I mean, it was literally a prison.
Wow.
Bars on the window, metal detectors, you know what I mean? Like cameras everywhere. It was depressing, to say the least.
Hmm.
And I realize it's a rough area. I spent a lot of time around Gary, so I understand the area it is, but it's just like, how are people supposed to learn in this kind of environment? But um, yeah, I'll get off on a tangent if you let me.
That's okay. That's okay. But listen, I think that, I mean, that's an angle, what talking about there in Alabama. That's an angle that I hadn't really thought about. But my belief is that they've just been so corrupt since Alabama became a state, that that's why, and just nothing's changed. It just hasn't changed because they just haven't been held accountable. And I can only hope that people continue to stand up and learn about their rights and stand up for their rights, and to where at some point they just can't deny it anymore. I mean, to me, there's so much evidence on YouTube now because of guys like you, Rogue, that
Right.
point towards a widespread training of corruption. Like they're literally being trained to not honor your rights.
Right,
And
absolutely. They're either being trained to not honor them, or they're being trained that you don't have them.
right,
Like, um, and again, if we're not out there collecting that evidence, in a lot of instances, it's their word against ours, and that's never it's never ever going to work in our favor. It's just not. I mean, unless you know the judge personally, you know what I mean, and he knows your moral character. But if not, I mean, it's not going to work. So evidence is needed, and if they're trying to say that this is freedom and this is the pinnacle of freedom, and yet they're denying us the right to watch what they're doing in our name with our money, then we can be assured that this is all just an illusion, right? And that's part of the reason I started, was to wake people up to the fact that this is just an illusion, right?
yeah,
It's a magic show, right? And we're
yeah,
being shown one thing while something else is going on behind the curtain. And it's hard to get people to accept the fact that we're basically just cash cows, just tax slaves to these
that,
guys, and that's it.
bingo.
You know what
That
I
is
mean? And
that is the root problem. I believe that is the root problem. That it's just become such a money making machine, that the thing that I found out for myself in my own situation that I have ongoing is that body cameras are not being looked at unless you actually go to trial. Like,
yeah,
why did we pay for all these body cameras if nobody's watching them unless you actually go to trial?
yeah, unless there's an issue with, like, if there's an incident or something, they'll hold on to it. But most police departments have like a 30 or 60-day policy that if there wasn't an incident on the camera, that it gets dumped. And who's to say what's an incident? Well, the department, I guess, or whatever. If there's a complaint filed, or if there was a crime, like you're saying, that it needs to go to trial, they'll hold on to it for evidence. But other than that, nobody sifts through that shit, man. They download it. If they need it for a court case, they'll save it. Otherwise, if no one requests it or complains, After 30 days, the shit gets dumped. You
Well,
know?
even even more so, taking that a step further is prosecution and judges are not reviewing the body camera footage to make sure it matches up with the written report. So it's like we're still in the 50s when where the cop just said, "Well, this is what well, if the cop said it, then it must be true." And yet the body cameras are completely different than what the report is. But nobody's looking, nobody's comparing unless you actually go to trial, is what I've come to find out. And that's I don't know if this is actually, the Department of Government Efficiency is actually going to be of a benefit. But boy, I sure hope they figure out how to make that happen. Because if that happens, I would think that probably 90% of the arrests that go on, the unlawful detainment, that's what I should say, is the unlawful detainments in this country will disappear.
Hopefully. I mean, there's a lot of good things coming down the pipe. There's a lot of people now that are starting to challenge qualified immunities foundation because
Yeah.
of the part of the law that was left out when it was codified in 1871. So there's a lot of push for that. Um,
Yeah,
and
it hasn't even been around that long, qualified immunity. Like you just said, it's 1971. That just doesn't seem that long ago to a guy that's lived, been alive that long.
well, right. No, I was saying that the law was codified in 1871, and they
Oh,
left it, and that was the civil rights stuff, the 1983 stuff. But they were saying that there was a sentence left out called the notwithstanding clause, which basically would mean that if there was no common law immunity for police officers back when the law was written, that there would be no common law immunity for them now. And there was no common law immunity for them back then, so there shouldn't be one for them now, is basically the gist of the whole argument. You're right, it was something that the courts came up with, and it wasn't long ago, qualified immunity, 30, 40 years ago. It
back in the
wasn't long.
70s. Yeah.
Yeah, 70s or 80s. Yeah, it wasn't long at all. And again, this is a red flag to the American people, right? Because when you have laws that you have to enforce at the barrel of a gun, they're obviously not good laws, right? And when you have enforcers uh, that are enforcing unjust laws, you have to protect them, right? Because no one's going to enforce unjust laws and have their ass hanging out in the wind, right? Like, no,
Right.
I'm not going to leave my family to go enforce your unjust laws. And then all of a sudden I'm in jail for 20 years for enforcing your unjust laws, right?
Right.
So they realize that they need to protect these enforcers. At least there will be no enforcers. And then the people will, you know, regain some type of leadership. So they have to have them in there. They have to keep them stupid as to questioning them, right? Because they don't want the officers on the bottom rung, questioning why they're, hurting citizens or why they're, um, IDing everybody, even when, most of them should know the Fourth Amendment. You know what I mean? Like,
You're bringing up a really, really good point. I mean, it's because you're right. They're blatantly following bad orders, and constitutionally, they're not supposed to do that either.
right,
I mean,
correct.
were you ever in the military?
No, sir, I was not. I
I,
was in the Civil Air Patrol as a youth, but
yeah,
I
no.
never went into the military.
The only reason I ask is because I was, and you had to memorize your 10 standing orders. And most of those orders were about not following bad orders. Like those were your 10 standing orders. You were actually expected um, not to follow a bad order from a superior officer. Those were your standing orders. I mean, I remember them to this day because you had to memorize them. If you didn't memorize them, you were in deep doo-doo, and you had to memorize them in boot camp. Like there wasn't any waiting until you graduated. You had to know those like by your second week. You had to have them memorized. In backwards, forwards, if the CO came and said, "What's number 6?" you had to spit it out. But you've got another comment there. I don't know if you want to address that.
No, I just brought it up for everybody to see it. Sometimes I just bring it up for people to see because it's an important point. An analysis media there made there says if you mention the Constitution, they say it's one of them, and it's absolutely right. When you start talking to them about the law, they say, "Oh, where did you get your law degree? YouTube, YouTube University." And not for nothing, and I have a playlist that people can find as well. There's a lot of good legal uh, information on YouTube that's put out by Harvard Law, that's put
Yes.
out by Yale. You know what I mean? That's put out by the Virginia School of Law. Like when somebody discredits a source of information, to me, that immediately tells me that they're not open minded, right? That they're not an intellectual, because part of being an intellectual is being able to take information from whatever source it comes to you and being able to sift through the fact and the fiction, right?
Right.
So that's part of being an intellectual, because everybody has a bias, right? There's no newspaper you're going to pick up that ain't got a bias to it, right? There's no reporter for a newspaper that ain't got a bias, right? There's no school teacher out there that don't got a bias. Everybody has a bias. I got a bias. You got a bias. Just like Oprah said, everybody gets a bias, right? We all got them. So the mark of the intellectual is identifying the bias, taking that out of the equation, looking at the information presented. Is it factual? Is it not factual? And then going on from there, right? So it's not about where you get the information from. Is the information truthful? Is it factual? Just like a scientist, can it be reproduced? There's a lot of legal theories out there. Some people call them sovereign citizens. Other people call them free men on the land, Moors, state nationals, whatever have you, right? And the important thing is that when someone presents a legal position to you, is it repeatable, right? So if someone says, "Yeah, I threw away my license and my license plate, and I went driving, and I got a ticket, and they took me to court, and I won," that's great. Is that repeatable, right? And if it's not repeatable, chances are it's not really a win, right? Chances are it's a fluke. It was dismissed for some other reason. The judge didn't want to have any issues that day, whatever the issue may be. But a real legal solution that will get you out of a dilemma is going to be repeatable, right? It's going to be, if you beat a red light ticket camera because you can't question the accuser because it's a camera, and you win your case by using that, and somebody else uses that case or uses that defense and they win, that's repeatable, and that's something that maybe you should look into. But there's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo out there on the internet. A lot of it's passed around by the government because the government wants us to get in trouble. The government wants people that can actually think to expose themselves, right? They don't want to have to track people down. They want you to expose yourself. So here's a sovereign citizen theory. You
Mm.
need to authenticate your birth certificate and send it to the Minnesota Attorney General, right? That's one of the sovereign citizen theories that goes around. You got to authenticate your birth certificate. You have to send it into the government. So now you're, sending this paperwork into the government, and they're like, "Oh, okay, we're going to put this guy on the list. He's obviously questioning the status quo, right?
Listen, you bring up
Like,
sovereign citizen. I was accused of being a sovereign citizen for exercising my Fifth Amendment right. And I corrected that person. I said, do you understand? You don't have to, like, everyone has that right. Everyone. You don't have to claim any kind of certain status to exercise a Fifth Amendment right. Everybody has that right.
well, they like to categorize us as sovereign citizens because those are trigger words like conspiracy theorists or conspiracy theory. So certain words trigger the sheep into shutting off, any kind of intellectual dialogue. And you could see this, like these are things that you could test yourself. Like you can go to your local bar and, you could talk with a group of people you've never met before. You could, hey, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. And then start talking about something that is controversial, like 9/11 or,
Hmm.
whatever your, you know, cup of tea might be to use to trigger the sheep, right? The government conformist. And you'll see like instantaneously the shutdown, right?
Hmm.
As soon as you mention something that's going to go against the social norms or what the majority is thinking at the time, you're going to get what people have been calling the fluoride stare, right? And they're going to shut down any kind of intellectual discussion with you. And at that point, there's no even, no need to even go along or continue trying to have a discussion at that point. But um, it's interesting. We've become almost a self-policing society because um, I just read the other day, it was some kind of like a Reddit post or something like that, but it had to do with Wesley Snipes and how he was a tax protester. And a lot of the comments in the comments down below were like, oh, what makes this guy so special that he gets to not pay taxes, but I do? You know what I mean? It's like they were so ready to toss him under the bus because, hey, if I got to pay taxes, this guy's got to pay taxes, right? And so we police our own society now. You hear somebody, oh, this guy doesn't pay taxes. Oh, shit, I'm going to call the IRS on him. You know what I mean? Because I got to pay
Yep.
taxes instead of trying to figure out how this guy's getting away with, not paying taxes, be it through, corporate shell companies or, whatever have you not. The IRS gives plenty of tax loopholes. You just got to know your way around the tax law. So again, everything revolves around getting to know the law better. If you want a better life, if you want a better understanding of the situation that we're in, it's all going to revolve back around the law because the law is the building block of society. Once two people come together, there has to be some kind of law. There has to be some kind of contract between them so that rights and obligations are upheld, right? That's
Right.
how people in society work. Even at the family unit level, there's still unwritten contracts and unwritten negotiations, right? Like my wife cooks dinner. She likes to cook dinner. It's an unwritten thing. I take out the trash.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
unwritten. We didn't sit
Right.
down and write this out. Hey, for the next 30 years, you're going to take out the trash. Okay, for the next 30 years, you're going to cook dinner. It's just, you know what I mean? It's just
Right.
what we fell into. We negotiated it without even negotiating it.
Right.
Um, there was a book I read. I can't remember the name of it right offhand, but it was basically about how everything in life is a negotiation, right? Even when you're getting on the on ramp to the freeway, you're negotiating with the cars around you to get onto the freeway. So he basically, ruled it down to basically everything that you do is going to be through a negotiation. Um, and so in those aspects, there's rights and obligations, and that's always the way it's been in society. Doesn't matter what kind of society you live in. Doesn't matter if it's a dictatorship or republic or whatever, society always comes before the government does, right? There's no government without a society. It's not like three people showed up on an island, poof, it's, the Philippines, right? They had to start a society first. And then
Right.
that society decides what government should run the society, right? But society always comes first, and society has rules that don't disappear when government is instituted. So there's a lot of stuff that they leave out. I'm going to address a lot of stuff in the kids' books that I'm working on. Um, to help people get a better grasp at an early age, because if you get bad beliefs at an early age, then that'll mess up your whole life, and that's how we see the people that we see now that are so entrenched in these bad beliefs. They've been beaten to their head their whole life. I mean, the only way people change beliefs is if they question them themselves, right? I can't tell you
Yeah.
what you believe is wrong and you take me seriously. That's not the way our brain works. If I tell you your belief's wrong, you feel attacked. You know what I mean? I'm an asshole. What the hell do I know? You know?
Well,
So
no, go ahead.
no, I was done.
Okay, so I just you're bringing up a lot of great points, and it's really like the whole basis of how this country was even started. But I mean, I don't want to get into like some of the horrific things that happened to for this country to be to be here, but I think there was some good intention. And the thing that catches my attention more than anything else, and I don't know of any other government in the world whose motto is "In God We Trust," and that just really resonates with me. It's in our courtrooms, it's on our monetary dollars that we trade with, and it seems that that spirituality. I don't know. It just seems that oppression is so deeply embedded in our society, in our judicial system, that it's gotten to a point where I feel that the 14th Amendment, which was supposed to have equal rights for all people, right? That was the point of it, that everyone was going to be treated equally under law. And it just doesn't seem like that's really been ratified either in practice or in spirit since it was voted on.
No, because and again, I think this goes to um, the miseducation, I guess, that they've applied to our learning as far as history and how everything applies and what it applies to. Because you know, within even the deepest lie is a grain of truth. So even embedded in a lot of these fake legal theories out there, there are some grains of truth in what these people are saying. And a lot of people would consider the 14th Amendment not to where we all became free and equal, but we all became subjugated to the federal government. Um, and it's an interesting concept. I've looked over quite a lot of information about that specific topic. The 14th Amendment does switch our, I guess you could say, our allegiance from state governments to the federal government. Um, so there's some stuff to be said about that. Um, the 14th Amendment was kind of pushed through on the southern states. Um, the whole Reconstruction carpetbaggery thing was all done because the southern states failed to ratify the 14th Amendment.
Right.
The only state that wasn't carpetbagged was Tennessee because they did ratify the 14th Amendment. And once the states did ratify the 14th Amendment, the Reconstruction stopped. Um,
See, and bringing that up, and I want to touch on that because that's how it was supposed to have been, Tennessee specifically, right? But then in 2024, you have people being arrested and charged and unlawfully detained for DUI that were never intoxicated. So those people were not treated fairly under the 14th Amendment. So it's almost like we've regressed prior to the 14th Amendment. And I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into that, but
but
that
well, before the 14th Amendment, and not a lot of people realize this, and I'm actually going to be doing a video on natural, unalienable rights versus civil rights.
oh,
So, before the 14th Amendment, people don't realize that the Bill of Rights did not apply to state citizens when they were violated by state action, right? So,
right,
to put it in the context of today, if we didn't have the 14th Amendment today, we wouldn't have a First Amendment right to, record our government officials at the state level,
right,
right?
but
Um,
right,
so that's a red flag to anybody that thinks that the Bill of Rights are natural rights that are unalienable that come from our Creator, right?
right,
Because if that was the case, they would be applicable to every person that violated them. But that was never the case. So with the 14th Amendment, and a lot of people, say the 14th Amendment and due process to the states, that then applied the Bill of Rights to state action. So now if the state violated our First Amendment right, we could then sue them in federal court, for violating our First Amendment right. And all those are civil rights. So there's an issue there with an understanding of even what basic rights are. When you say the word right, you're basically saying something that can't be infringed, right? The word right itself
right,
is meaning not able to be infringed. And so when you have rights that are being infringed, when you have rights that are being restricted, like in Chicago, you couldn't own a firearm for 30 years. You couldn't buy a firearm for 30 years. Um, so when you have stuff like that, then you have to realize that you're not dealing with a natural unalienable right, which would be a right that you would have if you were on a desert island, right? So if you can imagine, starting off humanity and you're one guy and you're on a desert island, what rights would you have then and there? What rights did your creator give you? He gave you the right to speak, right? Because you have a voice box. He gave you a right to defend yourself because you have two arms and two fists, right? He gave you the right to travel because he gave you two legs. These are natural rights that are unalienable, right? Like, it doesn't matter what country in the world that you're in. If someone is attacking you, you have the right to defend yourself. That's all across the board. Doesn't matter where you're at. You have the right to defend yourself. That's a natural right. In China, you don't have the right to bear arms because that's a civil right that our society felt that our citizens deserved, right? But
mhm,
folks in China don't deserve it, right? Because it's not a natural right, right? It's not something that our creator gave us. Our creator didn't put a gun in our hands when we were born, right? It's not a natural right. Same thing with the right to a trial by jury. If you're alone on a desert island, there is no trial by jury, right? Are you going to gather up the giraffes and the monkeys? You know what I mean? Like, so we have to start thinking more about what everything is, because it boils down to what everything really is. What does these words actually mean? What is this trying to tell us? And what we'll come to find out is that this lie's been going on for a lot longer than we thought.
Mm.
It's a lot worse than we thought. And like James Freeman says, every great empire comes to an end. And this was predicted back when the Constitution was written and ratified. Patrick Henry, one of my favorite founders of all time, wrote a speech called "Liberty or Empire" back
Mm.
when the Constitution was being ratified, and he said, why are we doing this? Why is this Constitution being written? Being written. Who is we the people? Who is speaking for us? What how are they speaking for us? And yeah, there's a lot of history left out back then that I think people would be shocked to know that it wasn't exactly as how they made it out to be. And we could see that now, like when we go through the indoctrination and the Constitution and freedom and rights and stuff like that, and then we get out into the real world and we're looking around and we're like, well, this doesn't seem like the dream that they told me about, right? Because my neighbor, he just lost his house to the county because he owed like 15 grand in back property taxes, but his house is worth like, I don't know, $300,000. So how is the
Right.
government taking this man's house when right in the Constitution it says that no private property shall be taken without just compensation. Supreme Court has said just compensation is fair market value. So if the man's house is worth $300,000, how is the county taking it and selling it for $15,000 in back taxes? And it's even worse than that because I'm hearing stories now. There was a case in Michigan that went up to the Michigan Supreme Court last year where they tried to take all the money from the sale of the guy's house and didn't want to give him any of the money back. Right?
Wow.
Like
Right.
just straight up take his house, sell it for what's owed. See, that's what's technically supposed to happen. They're
Right.
supposed to take the house, sell it for the back taxes, recoup that, and then give the owner whatever's left after, the liens are paid off to the bank or whatever have you not.
Right.
But when you start looking into it, you see that rarely happens. And then again, it puts you behind the eight ball. It's just like civil asset forfeiture, right? They
Oh,
take your shit and now you got to
that
prove, or you got to fight to get it back.
that is just that is one of the biggest travesties I've seen happen.
Yeah, and
In
now they've stopped it because Department of
abuse.
Justice put the
Yeah.
kibosh on it.
The other thing too is, you're talking about property and taxes. Try stop not paying your property taxes and find out who actually owns your property. You can never, I don't know of any property that you can fully outright own and pay off in this country.
This is where I feel kind of guilty because in my state, I don't pay any property taxes due to prior military service.
That's a different
No,
thing though. Are you in Alabama?
it's still something that it makes me feel a little bit guilty, but at the same time, it's something that came around, and I'll take any discount that they're willing to give me now any day of the week. But
Well, for one, I think that it wouldn't be so bad if there wasn't so much waste going on. But if
Yeah,
eh,
you could spend that money much better, my friend. I mean, all that's going to go to is some politician's hooker and coke. You know, that's
or a
all.
foreign country that we have no business sending money to.
Yeah.
well,
And
Matt Gates is not my congressman, so
Yeah.
yeah,
sorry. Is that
and
too soon? I
I
always wonder if that was too soon.
what's
Well,
that?
I mean,
I
really,
said, is
does it
I
really
said, is
matter?
I said, is that too soon? I've been just,
No,
since
no,
that report came out, I just wondering if it was too soon.
no, no, not at all. It would have been better if it would have even been before the report. You know what I mean? Like, let's face it, all these people are scumbags. They don't get to where they are by being not a scumbag, right? They don't get there by not taking payoffs. These people that are running the country, right? Because it's not the people that they put up front in the puppet show, right? It's the people with their hands up their ass, right? We're talking
Uh,
bankers and lawyers and people of high influence in finance. Uh, these people, they're the ones, calling the shots and stuff like this. So these people that we see up there, it don't even matter, right? And think, oh well, we'll elect somebody else there. Well, that doesn't matter either. This is such a
um,
high value game that it's not left a chance. You know what I mean? Like, imagine the mafia leaving its operations to chance. It's not going to happen, right? These people have been manipulating the government for years and years. If you think they're going to let somebody get in there that's going to expose them, take their family's wealth, and put them in prison for the rest of their lives, you've got another thing coming. And we're not talking peanuts. We're talking billions and trillions of dollars. They will massacre whole countries over this shit, right? Like,
Right.
this ain't a joke.
No,
These guys ain't playing.
no.
These guys are the mafia hyped up on steroids, flakka, and bath salts, right? And then they just don't give a shit, right? And they'll blame it on a mugging. I mean, it's the government, man. These guys make the mafia look like freaking romper room, right? Like, straight up.
they're cooking something up there that made the Pillsbury Doughboy go away
Yeah.
in shame.
No, listen, they'll kill you and your whole family and have the whole fucking country cheering about it, right? They'll fucking plant some right wing extremist fucking pamphlets and, maybe throw a Nazi flag in your garage and take some pictures. And next thing you know, you and your whole family's dusted. Everybody's you know? Oh, you got him. You got him.
Yeah,
The- so, I mean, it's just, it's naive to think that, business is getting done any other way. I mean, we know deep down in our hearts, we know exactly what's going on, right? We're not buying $90,000 screws from a company at the Department of Defense because we don't know what's going on, right? Anybody that sees that invoice and sees that it's a fucking screw or a bag of screws for $90,000 is going to realize something's not right, right? So how does all this stuff happen? It happens because it's supposed to happen, right? And then it
yeah.
just
I
it
found
just
a couple of
continues.
those and turned it in for fraud, waste, and abuse. And I got responses back on like 6 of them where previous something or other authorization, one time purchase, and I'm like, yeah, $60,000. I don't think so.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. And then if they don't get the money out of the taxpayers that way, they'll just have some of their buddies fly to Colombia and pick up a couple keys of coke. And then
Yeah,
they'll
that's true.
sell it on the street, and then their buddies, the cop, will bust you, and they'll
Or
have you.
they'll cook it up right there in the courthouse, from what
Oh,
I
you
understand down there in Florida.
you heard about that mule? I was just about to
Hmm.
bring that up. You heard about that?
I'm
No,
sorry, I
what
didn't mean to
happened?
step on you.
No,
Oh,
I didn't hear about it. What happened?
mule, you want to tell him?
You go right ahead. I'm dealing with a sore throat right now.
Okay, okay, buddy. So on the 7th floor of the courthouse, they were manufacturing crack cocaine. Then they were sending it with the undercover detectives out into the neighborhoods and dispersing it. And then once they dispersed it, the other arm of the uh, sheriff's department would come in and bust the people with the cocaine that was manufactured by the sheriff's department. True story. Did we lose you?
Yeah, I should be back now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Did you hear that?
Yeah, no, I did. And again, this kind of stuff doesn't surprise me in the least. Like it literally doesn't surprise me. I mean,
Well, but
and I guess I'm jaded, but this is exactly how I expect them to act.
but it
Is that
isn't it
sad?
isn't it isn't supposed to be like this. This isn't how it's supposed to be. You talked about inalienable rights, right? Natural rights. And I'm wondering, have you ever heard of a guy by the name of Father Francisco Suarez?
I want to
Me?
say I
Oh,
have
no.
heard the name, but I'm unsure of where I've heard it at. I can't place it.
Well,
Did he do a series on natural rights?
he is considered the godfather of modern law and also metaphysics, goal setting, and business systems. I mean, this guy was brilliant. He was you know, he was from Spain, 1500s, and he's credited with so much stuff. And he is the guy um, that is credited with talking about um, these God-given rights and how they're supposed to work with man's law. So God's law and man's law working together. He's that guy. You really should. You probably want to look him up. I think you would find him very interesting.
Yeah, I definitely love reading that kind of stuff, especially the older stuff, because the older the books, the more closer to the truth you're going to find. Because
Yes.
back in the day, the only people that could afford books were the elite.
Right.
So if you get a history book from the 1700s, I mean, it's really chock full of factual information. Where you pick up a history book today, it's full of bullshit. You know what I mean? Like
Well, yeah.
and misinformation. You know.
Well, here's what's really interesting to me from the research that I've done on this particular individual, Francisco Suarez. He's literally the architect behind our Constitution. Like all of the people that were involved with creating the Constitution of the United States knew exactly who he was. I find it very interesting that hardly anybody knows who he is. I've only met a couple of people. One in particular stands out in my mind, and he was a member of the Mensa Society, and he knew who he was. He couldn't really pinpoint why he knew the name, but he knew the name, and that's the only person that I've met that actually, like, I said the name and they went, "Yes, I know who that is."
I've heard, but not really dug into it as far as obviously you have. I just I knew that the name had something to do with our Constitution, just not really that
Didn't
in
know what.
depth. I didn't know how he was involved.
And
Well,
this is why Rogue is going to be so instrumental in creating these children's books, because he's going to introduce them to stuff that we used to be taught in this country. You know, I don't know if either of you guys remember, but there was a time in our education system that it was a requirement that you learn Latin along with English. And that was so that you would know the root meaning of our language.
absolutely.
Oh, Rogue, that I've got a link to that video that we were telling you about uh,
The
sheriff's office
courthouse.
busted for cooking crack and illegal stings.
Yeah.
I put it in your I put it in the private chat in StreamYard.
Okay. Okay. I can't really run any videos because my internet's so choppy, so I don't usually pop up videos. But I'll definitely watch it, and maybe I'll even do a video on it. Because again, the, people need to see this stuff. They need to see it daily, so it wakes them up out of their slumber. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, one incident here and there. Maybe that's a fluke, but there's literally, channels, 20, 30, 40, 50 channels on YouTube putting out stuff daily on different incidents, people being violated, from CPS visits to
Mm.
traffic stops to, during audits to, just regular ordinary people. I had a guy last night did a video on a guy that pulled up in a parking lot. And as soon as he pulled up, the cop was on him, and so people, again, part of the issue I've always thought is that, people didn't realize there was an issue. Like an alcoholic doesn't realize he's an alcoholic. And so if people don't realize there's an issue, they're not looking for a solution, right?
Right.
Why look for a solution to a problem that doesn't exist? Right.
Yep.
So we have to make the people realize that, hey, there is a problem. Now more and more people are waking up every day. That's uh, you almost want to say the beauty of it, but it's not beautiful at all, because the way they're waking up is they're being violated by the government, right?
Right.
So it's continuing every day, every minute. Somebody was just violated just while we are sitting here talking. There's been 5 people violated, right?
Right.
So there's people waking up to the injustice of the government every day, but it's slow going that way. So we're trying to
Do,
to
do you
showcase
want me
this.
to? Do you want me to share the tab with you?
Sure.
There you go. Hang on.
Let me see.
You got it up? There you go. There we go. Ready? Hit
This is a
play.
really ironic story.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Broward County Sheriff's Office used to cook their own crack cocaine involved in stings. Okay. Yeah. They used to actually cook their own crack cocaine. Put up the picture full mass. We have kind of a feel good ending to this story, according to CBS News 12 in Florida. For 3 years, the Broward County Sheriff's Office produced its own crack cocaine so it could sell it to people that deputies would then arrest for buying crack cocaine. Wait a minute. Wait. Textbook entrapment. Now, what is entrapment? Entrapment is basically, hey, even though the person may have technically done something, the government created the scenario. And if it had not been for the government creating the scenario, I mean, top to bottom, the crime would have never occurred. This is entrapment. All right. So they cooked the damn crack cocaine, made it themselves. It was a practice the Florida State Supreme Court repeatedly described as outrageous in its 1993 ruling that such reverse stings violated an individual's right to due process. More than 30 years later, though, a routine audit of documents found hundreds of those arrests and convictions are still on the books and part of people's criminal records, and it should not be. So on Friday, the state attorney for Broward County, Harold Pryor, announced his office planned to do something about that, declaring, quote, "It is never too late to do the right thing. These records may be a dim memory or an unfortunate part of history to many, but they have had a long-lasting and severe impact on the lives of the people who were arrested, as well as their families and the wider community," Pryor added. The state attorney's office explained that despite the Supreme Court's decision, many of these cases were never vacated. That means they could still weigh on the lives of those prosecuted under the unconstitutional program, affecting their ability to get a job, find a home, or appearing in criminal history checks. Anyone who thinks they may be affected by the effort is asked to reach out to the state attorney's office. According to numbers cited in the statement, some estimates have placed the number of cases involved may be as high as 2,600 cases. The Broward County Sheriff Gregory Toney was made aware of the plan to vacate or remove the judgments and sentences of those who were arrested and convicted as part of those reverse sting operations, and he does support the plan according to his office. Quote, these matters were well before our tenures. However, I am of the opinion that the state has an ethical duty and obligation to correct this injustice before destruction of old records is initiated. Pryor wrote in a letter to Toney on Thursday explaining his office's intention. Many of the records discovered during the audit were still on hand, even though they were past the statutory requirement to be retained. Some of them were slated for possible destruction, so they were able to catch this. At some point when the Supreme Court of Florida ruled that, okay, yeah, this whole sting operation, you all are cooking the crack cocaine, selling the crack cocaine, and then busting the people who buy your crack cocaine. That's unconstitutional.
I'm sorry. I can only hold it in so long, man.
Yeah, no, you really can't. You really can't make this kind of stuff up. I want to say Merry Christmas and welcome the 10th man down below.
What's up, bro?
Good to see you, buddy. We're almost out of here, man. It's almost been 2 hours, but we're
yeah. I was watching some earlier. Did you see my traffic stop the other day?
No, sir.
That's what I tried to say. Most people, everybody's like, "Oh, the auditor's got to be nicer." It's like, I am usually really nice, but when you just get off an 11-hour shift and you're trying to go grab milk for your husband because you don't even eat milk barely, but he puts it in his coffee, and then the cops stop you randomly on the road, and you're like, "Yeah, what's going on?" Like there's a like a DUI checkpoint type thing, and they're like, and I'm like, "Yeah, what's this going on?" And they're like, "Yeah, we just need to see your license." And I'm like, "Oh, can I pull over for a second?" And they're like, "Yeah, pull over in front of my car." So I pull over behind their car because you don't fucking tell me shit. And then, you can see it. It's on Rumble. I'll text you links to it. You can highlight it if you want, but don't link my channel because I don't want clicks and views. I don't need to be on any more lists. But, I wasn't nice. But then at the end, I go, "Have a good day," because I'm a professional person. Tech industry for over 30 years. I'm a very, very nice person. Until someone does or says something fucking stupid. But I'm half a mind. Like we just had a blizzard, so it's hard to get around and stuff. I'm trapped in my driveway. And but I'm of half a mind because I try not to disparage people because this was a dumb bitch, right? And I was like, have I committed a crime or a traffic offense? No. Am I being detained? No. Am I under arrest? No. And I'm like, well, what if I don't give you my license? Well, I give you a fine. I'm like, what would the fine be for? Well, I can give you all kinds. Do you want me to write you some? But then at the end, she goes, no, you're free to go. So I'm at half a mind to show up at the fucking RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the Mounties is what's out here, down the fucking road, like less than probably 2 or 3 miles from my house here, right? And show up at the police station, say, listen, I think that that officer made a mistake because she said she had to give me a fine. Had to. She didn't say, like, you could get a fine, or she said, I have to. If you do not present your license, I have to give you a fine. Those were her words, right? So the reason why I'm even mentioning this, because you don't have to highlight my video. I don't care about that. I'm just trying to bring up that I saw the beginning of your stream and blah, 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 and you get convicted, and then you were just watching this thing about them cooking the crack. And I also just watched We the People University, and I had seen numerous versions of that video where the black gentleman was moving out his friend, and then he got arrested. Well, I didn't realize until We the People University put out this video here just now, that guy who refused ID was convicted of obstructing official duties. He was convicted of that, right? So you're saying, oh, I don't know why they could convict me. I'm going to appeal, blah, 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 blah. I said this on Tonics last night, all right? and I don't know you guys. I know Rogue. I don't know who these other people are, but so all you fucking people that think that elections are real, or any of these people have your best interest at heart, that Trump's gonna save you, that the drones are aliens, all this nonsense. You people are spectators of a television show and or movie. This is a long-running series. You're falling for a con artist reality TV star that's going to come and save you. He is an actor. He is a fucking actor. He's not a politician. He's not the real president. He is an actor. And all you people are rooting for these people. Oh, Joe Biden. Oh, Democrats. Oh, blah, 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 blah. No different than the Chicago Bulls and the Orlando Magic. It's all a fucking illusion. You're all falling for fucking nonsense. And Biden and Putin and Trump and all Netanyahu and fucking Keir Starmer and all these people are all meeting on islands and doing horrible, horrible things to people and probably worshiping the devil. And you're just playing along and acting like, oh yeah, Biden and Trump are horrible, horrible enemies. Oh, is that why Biden put Trump's hat on? Oh, it's because he's mad at Kamala Harris. Oh, look at all the rivalry between all the people on your favorite television show. It's fucking Love and Hip Hop, fucking DC. That's what the fuck we're watching here. Love and Hip Hop, DC, fucking Real Housewives of Suck My Dick fucking Palace. You're paying for my fucking shit and you will own nothing and you will be happy. That's what the fuck is going on here. Sorry.
I'm not laughing at you or what you said. I'm laughing at how you ended it. Sorry.
Yeah, and you know what? And Chris, one of our guys in the chat, Chris, had said something about devil worshiping, but actually a lot of the stuff has been tied into devil worshiping. The Bohemian
and sorry,
Grove.
I forgot the reason why I went on that rant. Sorry, but it's because you notice that we're led on with this nonsense for 8 years about Hunter Biden's laptop, pardoned, full pardon for everything over the past decade and a half or whatever the fuck it was, a decade, 10 years. Biden's going to get off scot-free. They're all going to get off scot-free. Trump's going to get nothing. It's all an illusion. Fannie Willis isn't going to get in trouble. None of these people are going to. Anybody who gets in trouble is going to be the people who try to talk and tell you that you're all being fucking fooled. Sorry. That's what. None of these people are getting in trouble for all this shit. They lock us down for 4 years in our houses. I'm vaccinated, jab, injured, right? On and on and on and on and on and on. None of these people get in trouble, but Rogue goes into a Social Security office, convicted.
Yeah, no kidding. I just, or somebody reversing a judge's order because they don't see something in the Constitution.
Rights don't
really
exist.
Weird. Yeah, I know. They do. It's just
no, they don't. Unless you're willing to commit. How do I say it without getting you in trouble? Unless you're willing to defend things with your life and willing to take another life to defend that, you don't deserve anything. No rights. It's all an illusion. If they're willing to murder you or take everything that you have or whatever, and all you're willing to do is go file a piece of paper in court, and if you don't think that these people who win the lawsuits are the people who also sign an agreement that says, you're gonna keep your mouth shut from now on, those are the people that get money, right? I think that half of the auditing community got turned long time ago, right? I have a lot of theories. I just keep my mouth shut because I got real close to the heart of the beast in my time around these parts. And I got a lot of questions.
Well, good to see you here, buddy, and Merry Christmas to you. Tommy Wood, Merry Christmas to you. Everybody in the chat. Toker.
I think DPN was murdered.
That could be DPN, disorderly
he was
product
murdered.
use.
Listen, he told me last time, and I wish I was recording my phone calls, but I went back. I recorded some phone calls, but I didn't really pay that close of attention. I thought I had it recorded. I guess I don't. I tried to find it. He might have been calling me from a different phone number. I don't know. I put that phone into an archive. But anyway, last time I talked to him before he went completely crazy, because he called me his producer for half a dozen episodes or whatever. I helped him with broadcasting. And the last time he called me before he went ballistic and was like screaming at me in the mall, he said that a 10th man, you're the only one that can help me. There's these people following me and they're coming after me, and only you can help me, 10th man. And then I messaged him a few times after that, was like, hey man, are you okay? You were acting kind of off last time. And then all of a sudden, DPN's dead. I find it strange.
Well, again, there's nothing I think that's off the table when, you're talking about it. What people fail to realize is that a journalist that uncovers the story, that's their reward, right?
Do you remember what he was investigating right before all this happened? He had tracked down that phone or an AirTag or something that they were storing people's confiscated stuff in some private home's garage. Right? And then all of a sudden, less than a year later, DPN's dead.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's sort of like that guy out in California. I can't remember what his name now is. Rights Crispy would know. We just watched a show about him, but he exposed some stuff that the police were doing out there, and next thing you know, his house is being like surveilled, and he has cameras up outside his house and around his house and stuff. So he catches all this on camera, and sure enough, he tells people, he thinks that they're going to try to kill him, and he ends up dead. And
Yep.
that's what happens when you find the really good story, right? When you really bust them doing their corruption, that's the reward that you get to look forward to. So, I mean, retaliation, I told my wife the other day, I said, yeah, the government's retaliating against us. I'm on probation, stuff like that. But I mean, I've talked and good friends with people that have endured retaliation for 20 odd years, and been assaulted, over a dozen times with broken bones each time, like there's some real retaliation that goes on out there. And the more you uncover, the more likely you are to get your, I guess you could say, your Pulitzer Prize, right?
What did that cop say outside whatever? I think it was a government building or whatever. And listen, I don't even like them, right? But I watch all. You know who I am. So anyway, I'm in all your fucking videos. I watch it all. But what did they say to Long Island Audit that made them big? When that cop on body cam said 20 years ago, I'd have just taken all his teeth out and he'd be in a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
Straight up.
That's exactly how they would handle situations back then. Because
that's how they still do.
Of course. Now
he's
it's
willing to say that on body cam, brah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, because he didn't think that would ever see the light of day, dude. That's how comfortable they are with the corruption, dude. Is they they see that, and there's been other instances where people have openly exposed, where people have talked about, knocking people off or
yes.
trying to get people
shutting
taken
down
care of.
aid to Ukraine if they don't shut down the investigation into your son.
Right. I mean, yeah, high level, low levels.
Right.
All the
Almost
way around.
like it's part of the plan, sir. Almost like it's part of the plan.
Of course it is. None of this stuff happens by chance. These aren't people that lead reactionary lives. Most people lead reactionary lives, right? Like they wake up in the morning, they have a semi-balance. It's not so much a plan as it is a habit, right? People don't plan their day. They just go through their day according to their habits. They wake up, they smoke a cigarette or drink coffee or whatever it is. If everybody sits and thinks about it, everybody's got a daily routine that they go through. They get up to go to work at 5 a.m. They get up and they turn on the TV, watch news. Everybody's got a plan, a routine, right? But it's not a plan like these guys have a plan, right? These guys aren't reactionary to where things come at them and they don't, they just react to it. They plan shit to happen, right? They don't wait for shit to happen and then react to it. These guys make shit happen. They plan the shit out. So it's a totally different mindset than what most people are used to, and most people can't understand it because they don't.
Kamala Harris made $1 billion go missing in 30 days.
Well, right, but what I'm saying is that these plans that they don't understand them because most people don't plan 5 years in advance. If you ask people, what's their plan for the next 5 years, they'll look to the sky and they'll pontificate on where they'd like to be in 5 years. But those are dreams. Those aren't goals. Those aren't plans because none of them are written down. They're just thoughts in someone's head that they're expressing out of their mouth now. But those aren't the plans that these guys are talking about. These guys have plans that are 100 years in the making, right? These guys aren't looking for self-gratification because they have everything already, right? They're not looking to get rich. They are rich, right? They're not looking to do anything but extend their reach and their power, not only for them, but for their great 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 grandson, right? Most people aren't even thinking about their grandson. They can't stand their own kids, most people.
That's why you can trace all presidents, supposedly except for Trump, all back to the royal family.
Well, the scariest thing, I think, probably in talking about presidents is that we have not had a president that was also a general since Eisenhower. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure about that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I believe that the reason for that is that Eisenhower, having this, military is very different, even though they take the same oath. Even though you're supposed to take the same oath, whether you're in law enforcement or whether you're in military, the Army was the first branch of law enforcement in this country, but they have a different perception about the Constitution, and but it's kind of been changing, and the reason it's been changing since Eisenhower is the one that desegregated the military. He was the one that said, no, whites and blacks are going to be in the same building. They're going to sleep in the same bunkhouse. They're even going to share the same bunk bed. And he made that happen. And then we haven't had a president who was a former general since then. So, what you're talking about, these 50-year and 100-year plans, you're absolutely 100% correct about that. And I believe that this has been going on since that happened. There's a deep, I mean, people have called it deep state. I just think that, there's a faction of people in this country that just aren't happy, they're not happy that they don't have enough control. They've allowed us to have this idea, like 10th Man was talking about, that we have this illusion that we have some kind of control, but we really don't. Because if we did, all of this stuff that we've been talking about for the last 2 hours wouldn't be happening.
Because people what they did was over the past 40 or so years, maybe 100, but really, really pushing it hard over the last 40 years, is getting rid of any men that are masculine. That's what they do, right? That's what they've done, is they've taken masculinity out of westernized society, and they demonize it. They demonize masculinity because they just want a whole bunch of women that buy their stuff and argue about, and talk shit about each other, right? I try not to talk shit about anybody, but that's what they want, right?
Yeah, no,
That's what women do.
I'm
Women
not
do
laughing
character
at you or what
assassination,
you're
and that's
saying.
what they do. They character assassinate, and they just want us to all sit around characters. Oh, look at this guy. Who does he think he is? Santa Claus? What's he weigh? 500 pounds? Rogue, you're a criminal. Whoever this random guy hasn't said, the guy with the like stripes there, he hasn't said anything the whole time, so he must be hiding something.
Well, he just put up that comment there. I think that's great. Government's greatest trick is to create the problem, then offer a solution. You're 100% correct in that statement. And we're paying for it. And the general public is paying that bill.
Well, that's actually their modus operandi, I guess you could say, their MO. But that's how they move stuff through, is the problem reaction solution methodology, where they have the solution they want, right? Like, let's say, take guns away from the citizens, right? That's the solution they want. So then they come up with a problem that'll get the reaction that they want, that then they'll come along with the solution. And so you'll notice over the last, I don't know, 30, 40 years that gun violence, especially guns and school violence, has gone up, as the clamor for, less guns has also gone up, or, taking away people's gun rights. So they're using that, a lot of people believe, as a means to circumvent that, because and not a lot of people realize this, but some of the people out there believe that there's a group like the deep state, like the gentleman was talking about, that are known as the Council on Foreign Relations. And the Council on Foreign Relations is a think tank that is in New York City and in Washington, D.C. And the Council on Foreign Relations was started back in the early 1900s. It was started by a gentleman named Colonel House, who was a advisor to Woodrow Wilson. He also wrote a book back then that talked about the taking over of the government by a group of wealthy individuals. I guess call it coincidence. I don't know. He was also rumored to be at Jekyll Island when they did the Federal Reserve Act as well. But Colonel House started this group, Council on Foreign Relations. And if you look it up, and if you look up their membership list, which they have a public website, you can go to Google and type in Council on Foreign Relations, and you can look up their membership list. And what you'll notice is that their membership list is a who's who, politicians, public relations, lawyers. I mean, just a who's who of basically the elite, the people that control what we think, what we see, what we read, what we hear. Again, along with all the politicians, both sides of the aisle, doesn't matter. And a lot of people will say that if you want to know Americans' foreign policy next year, you'll read the magazine that the Council on Foreign Relations puts out, which is called Foreign Affairs, I believe. And they put that out, and they say if you want to know what our foreign policy will be next year, you'll read that magazine this year, because that's how influential they are. You'll see a lot of them, the editors on Fox News and some other news programs around the DC area. They're always on there being asked, their expert opinion on stuff. But the reason I bring them up is because in the 1970s, I believe it was 1975, the Assistant Secretary of State, Richard Gardner, wrote an article for their magazine. And again, this is all public knowledge. You can look it up online, replay this video later, get the title and look it up. But he wrote an article, and the article was called The Hard Road to World Order. And in that article, he said that the Americans would not allow their rights to be taken quietly. So what they would have to do would be to circumvent our rights. And the way to do that to be going about it would be through economic chaos, terrorism, and there was something else. But basically three things. But all three things are oh yeah, global warming.
Eradication of religion, wasn't it?
No, I think it was global warming, but I could be wrong.
Maybe.
But I mean, people need to read it for themselves, right? Don't take my word for it by any means. God damn it, go and find the article. I think you got to pay a fee to get the magazine, which I'm sorry about that. I have no control over that. Maybe you can find a copy of it online for free. I don't know, but you need to read it for yourself so you understand what these people are talking about. I mean, this isn't just something that people are guessing about and talking about in the backs of bars because they got drunk and are giving hypotheticals. I mean, this is shit that's all played out, just like Operation Northwoods.
Yeah.
Back in the
I just
day
watched
where
a video a few minutes ago before you came live. A guy standing outside, it might have been the Council of Foreign Relations or the United Nations meeting, and he was asking all the people coming out that were all wearing Ukraine pins, are Palestinian lives as valuable as Ukrainian lives? None of them would talk to him.
Yeah, that's just one more thing, good Lord.
And then I
But,
said everything I had to say, so I won't
well,
interrupt you again, I promise.
no, you were fine actually. I started roboting then, so I didn't actually get to hear what you said, and I wasn't cut off because I
I said
couldn't
I
talk
just
anyway.
watched a video before you went live where a guy was standing out, either Council on Foreign Relations or something like that in Europe, might have been Council on Foreign Relations or not United Nations, something like that. And all these government representatives from around the world were coming out. And he's a journalist. And he was asking them all, and most of them were wearing the Ukrainian pin. And he kept asking them all, are Palestinian lives as valuable as Ukrainian lives? And none of them would talk to him.
Yeah.
Almost like some animals are more equal than others.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely protected classes and stuff like that, and what
No, it's
have
Animal Farm.
Well, right. That's what I'm saying. There's a definitely that hierarchy. I mean, we've never not had a hierarchy in society. I mean, if you look at anthropology, there's a book written by a gentleman named Hobel, and it's called Man in the Primitive World.
They crave it.
Yeah, and basically what he said is that in every society ever known to man, we've broken down society into classes, or what they call them is statuses. And so and back in the day, early in the day, you could see these statuses a lot more than you could see them today. But back then, you had, like, for the Indians, you had a chieftain and you had a medicine man and you had this or you had that, and
You
that's
mean
how
indigenous persons, sir? You've just committed a hate crime.
well, I'm actually part Blackfoot and part Cherokee, so I'm cool.
Don't matter. Well, you're a criminal. You can get away with it, I guess.
But but anyway, and in Europe and stuff, you can see it with the dukes and the lords and the knights, and so we could look back in history and we could see how those society classified everybody that they did. But when we look at today's society, and we don't see how they classify us or the statuses that we're given. But in law, statuses are stuff like the words, okay, a taxpayer is a status, husband is a status, father is a status, convict is a status. All these are different statuses in law, right? So, and what a status is your rights and obligations, right? So your rights and obligations in law as a father are different than your rights and obligations in law as a husband. Okay. And that's how they break it down in this society for us. Um, and public employee is a status, or senator, you know what I mean, compared to taxpayer or citizen, you know. Um, so yeah, all that is still in full effect, you know. So, but
If you notice, there's
again,
a difference between me and now and when we spoke last, like and stuff, because I had to spend months in traction because I got badly hurt from that jab. I'm getting better,
I'm
but
sorry to hear that.
I was in really rough shape there for a real long time. I'm still not great, but you know.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's over 2 hours, guys. I got to wrap it up and get back to the fam. And
Okay.
you
It is
know,
motherfucking Christmas.
it is Merry Christmas to everybody.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas out there.
And yeah, Merry Christmas. And Rogue, thanks so much for hosting this, and thanks for entertaining some of my thoughts. And I'd like to just take a shout out. I don't know if you looked at how many people have followed along, but the numbers have continuously increased as we've been on here, and we're up to almost 800 people. So
I may have shared it.
there's a lot of people. Well, thank you for doing that. So, but the fact that the numbers have just steadily increased since since you started this tonight, shows that it's necessary and people are interested. And I certainly hope you'll do this again.
Oh, absolutely. From time to time, I get on and update everybody on what's going on. I try to be as transparent as possible in my work. A lot of trolls popped on my channel and, oh, you haven't told your viewers yet. Like, I don't pop on the minute stuff happens a lot of times and go live, but I definitely keep everybody updated because, I mean, it's part of the job, just like the revisits are part of the job. And, you want, if you're really looking to do something, you're going to show everything. You're going to show the good, the bad, the ugly. You know what I mean? Like, I've never been one to not put up a video because somebody's like, "Oh, Rogue, you got owned in that video." Maybe, maybe not, but the whole point is to showcase bad behavior regardless of what I do, whether I give my ID or I don't give my ID, or I identify or don't identify, or go to jail, or whatever have you not. My whole channel, I have one guy that always comments because the videos that I cover sometimes are in vertical mode and they're not in landscape mode. And I constantly
Oh
tell,
my goodness gracious!
yeah, I
The
tell the guy,
horror.
yeah, I'm like, listen, I said, this guy's maybe not an auditor or whatever. I don't know. I said, but I cover bad public employees. So I'm not going to let a bad public employee video slide because it's not in my preferred video format. You know what I mean?
That's
Like,
just
Oh
phenomenal.
God.
that would just defeat the whole purpose to me. Like, why am I, like, people always get, wrong impressions. Oh, you do this for the, the clicks and the views, and it's just like, man,
No,
Yeah,
it's
it's
never
not
been
about
about
that.
that.
I've never felt like it was about that with you, and it certainly isn't about that with me. It's all about attempting to, like you say, bring awareness to people. And
I didn't go live at the traffic stop because I wanted clicks and views. I was recording static and went live because I thought they were about to like attack me.
Well,
yeah,
that's why
that's,
it's there for,
yep. But
and people gotta, with this, these cases and stuff that are around, people gotta start watching, going live too, because the feelings I'm getting from the court is that
Oh
being
yes.
live is an expressive activity, whereas
Oh
that
yes.
may not be. So that's something that people need to be aware of. I mean,
That's
this
how
thing's-
CFW got the charges she got, because Buddy didn't even hear her say what she said. He went back and listened to the video and then charged her with that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. I mean, unless I think unless you're in danger of getting arrested or getting assaulted or beat or something by a cop, I think people should just record static and
Yes.
throw it out later. I mean, maybe
Yes.
cop watching maybe a little bit different, but as far as auditing goes, I mean, I don't see no benefit in it. I hardly ever go live when I audit. And again, maybe that was just me, but first and foremost, my videos always came out better quality. When I'm in a building and I'm live, there's interruptions, there's pixels
You
go
lose
all.
signal. I think they're
Yeah,
using signal jammers in the police stations. I said that years ago.
yeah, so yeah, a lot of people are getting screwed, but all right, guys,
Happy
man, we
Christmas.
just got to keep fighting. Yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, guys, and we'll be around, so we'll check everybody again. Thanks everybody for coming.
Until they kill us.
That's it, man. Until
Catch you on the flip side.
I go to that great studio in the sky.
Don't worry, the drones are here to help us. It's for our safety.
Until I start auditing those
All
pearly
right.
gates.
Yeah, that's right. That's it.
All right.
All right.
All right, folks. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Catch you later.
Have a good night, everybody.